Hey gun people, gonna talk about why a cop pulls his gun. And I got a couple questions. I mean, I got some trolls who are like, you don't pull your gun that much, you're full of shit. Whatever. I mean, if I gotta make up that I pulled my gun while I was on duty, I mean, that's pretty weak. But and I got a couple comments from a couple other cops saying, you know, I haven't pulled my gun but once in like 6 months. So I don't understand how you can say you pulled your gun several times a shift. So now, I don't know if all states are the same. I'm pretty sure they are, because in the Air Force I've worked in several different states as a cop, and we were peace officers in those states. You know, working with the FBI, training with the U.S. Marshals and DEA and Customs, and I mean, I've worked with the Department of Energy. I've worked with a whole bunch of agencies over my career in law enforcement. And most things are the same when you pull your gun. You have to feel some sort of danger. You have to feel like it is somewhat that you don't have control of the situation and there could be force or a weapon, or you got an uncooperative suspect. So, I don't know, you know, there's a couple agencies out there that make cops justify pulling their gun. I think that's a very bad policy. We talked about making that my agency. I was one of the 2 range masters, and we kind of pretty much had good say on what the policy was. Not that we had any authority, but our boss trusted us, and if we said it should go on a policy, it should, he trusted us. And I was like, absolutely, we do not want to make people justify pulling their gun, because then they're going to have to think of justification before I pull it, and that lag time or a few seconds can get somebody killed. So, let me go across some of the reasons that somebody would pull their gun. And I'm going to try to just think back of like a normal day for me going out working the streets. Now, again, when I'm working in bad areas. I'm not working in your nice neighborhoods with doctors and lawyers and $200,000 homes, and, you know, the biggest call we get is, you know, there's a loose dog or somebody's having a party, can you tell them to turn it down? I mean, I'm not doing that. I'm working street crime. You know, the different units that I've worked on is crime suppression unit, career criminal unit, gang task force, narcotics task force, gun violence task force. So, you know, maybe it's a little different, but I don't think it is. I think most cops in California, at least, that you're pulling your gun if you're out there contacting people. I gotta say, at least once a shift. I mean, I can't rarely remember going out on the road and not pulling my gun at least once a shift. So why would I need to pull my gun? Okay, so anytime I'm doing any type of felony stop, and a lot of crime is related or circled around vehicles. Now, I am a big I don't give a shit about traffic. I don't care if you're speeding. I don't care if you roll through a stop sign. I don't care if you don't use a blinker. I mean, if you're not out there committing what I call real crime, I could give a shit, and I'm not out there looking to write tickets. So the people that I am pulling over are usually bad guys driving. I'm profiling. That's right. Cops profile. You know, you can't profile for just race, but there's plenty of other profiles. You know, crime. You know, if somebody robs a bank and they're in a white pickup truck, guess what? Cops are profiling white pickup trucks until they catch the bank robber. That's just the way it is. It's common sense. You know, in liberal la-la land, they're going to tell you, you can't profile, it's wrong, it's bad, you can't judge. All snakes, they're going to bite you just because one snake bit you. That's all liberal poo-poo crap. So, cops profile all the time. So, when I was working auto theft, the #1 stolen cars were your Toyota Corollas, your Cutlass Caprice, or your Cutlass Caprice, what's some other good ones? I mean, the Lexuses were up there for a while, but whatever car was stolen a lot, that's what I profiled. That's what I went out and looked for. Now, did I look for a Lexus with a guy in a suit? Most crooks, I know, it's profiling, and you shouldn't do it, Rick, and it's bad, and all you cops are the same, and you're just picking on whatever. Most crooks don't put on a suit and tie when they go out and commit crimes. Not the crimes that I'm looking for. Auto theft, robbery, burglary, gun crimes, gang crimes. They just don't wear suits. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but if I went out there and stopped people in suits and I was working gang, I'd be pretty much a failure and probably wouldn't make a lot of arrests. So I'm contacting what I call high profile, high visibility, high criminal activity people. Tats. Look like they just got out of the joint. Wearing tattoos. Having gang tats on them that are specific to a joint. Teardrops on the eye. Facial tattoos. Things that attract me to not the normal person who has a job. Most people who are dressing like that and running around on bicycles when they're 40 years old, they're not working in a job. Now somebody's going to be in Davis, you know, everybody rides a damn bike. You can't profile bike riders, that's unlawful and unconstitutional. You're an idiot. Shut up. Okay, cops profile. And normally the biggest profile for cops is youth. Cops don't profile old people too much. Unless we got a 70-year-old guy that just robbed a bank, then I'm going to profile 70-year-old people that match his description. But most of the times, cops profile young guys. Criminals are normally young guys. Okay? Because as they get older, they're either in the joint or they've changed their ways. They figured out they don't want to go back to the joint, so they get out of it. Crooks are always young. Cops continue to get older as they do the job longer. Crooks stay young. Which is why they say cop is a young man's job. So, let's say I'm going to work. I'm driving to work. I see a car. It's one of my high-profile stolen cars. I look at it. I run a plate. The plate does not come back on file. It's not in the system. We call that a clue that something's wrong. It should have came back expired. If it's not on the system, it has to be gone for 3 years. So that means this car's driving around with a plate that hasn't been registered in 3 years. Did he switch a plate? Did he steal a plate? Did he take it off another car because he stole this car and he didn't want the stolen plate on there? I don't know. Would I pull my gun on that car? No, not walking up to it. But when I stopped it, I'd ran it, I'd make sure it matched the color. When I got out of my car, my hand would be on my gun. I'd be looking at probably the young kid driving it. I'd be looking at his behavior. Is he looking around? Is he nervous? Does he turn the car off? Does he leave the car running? Does he put it in reverse and put it in drive because he doesn't know how to put it in park? And does he have this consciousness of guilt? Now, all these things combined, now I might go ahead and pull my gun out when I approach the car. I go, dude, show me your hands, quit jumping around like an idiot. Put your hands on the dash. Now I'm going to make sure there's nobody in the back seat. Now I'm going to figure out what's going on, get his driver's license. So that would be one way of pulling my gun. If I see a cop on the side of the road, and there's 4 guys in a car, and all of a sudden, as I pull up, the cop gets in a fight with this guy, and all the people get out of the car. I'm pulling my gun. As I get out of the car, I'm ordering everybody, get back in the car, keep your hands where I can see it, stay out of this, and I'm going to lock down them. So I pull my gun for that. Now, how often does that happen? Well, pretty damn rarely, depending on the area you're working in. Another reason you pull your gun, a bank robbery. And now we're stopping, we're looking for white trucks. And we're looking for a black male and a white male who robbed the bank. Well, when I see a white truck with a black and white male, guess what? When I stop them, my gun's out. When I pull them over, I'm going to have my gun out. If I approach somebody and I see a guy and I kept a hot sheet of parolees at large that we were looking for that were in the area. And we knew they were in the area because we were the rest of their buddies. When they paroled, they were living in the area. Their sister, their mom lives around there, so we know they're in the area. So we get a little hot sheet, and on our dash we have all these pictures of these knuckleheads. So as we're driving around, I'm looking for these guys, and when I see somebody on the street, I go, he kind of looks like Joey or Paco, and I go through here and I go, shit, that's Paco, man. That might be him. He's wanted for armed robbery and weapons. He's got an armed and dangerous on it. Guess what? When I contact this guy, he's going at gunpoint. Dude, show me your hands, don't move. You got any weapons on you? What's your name? Until I figure out that it's not him, my gun's pointed at him. Now, you know, there's going to be some cops and some agencies going to say, oh, well, you shouldn't pull your gun unless there's a threat and unless you see a gun. Well, that's how you get shot. I mean, I've dealt and put, I can't imagine how many people we put in prison for long terms. Hardcore gangbangers that were going back for a long term, on parole, committed high crime felony. We didn't have to shoot anybody. Why? Because they recognize when cops get out and you're on your game and you're ready, they're less likely to challenge or do something. They're less likely to fight a guy. You get some retired guy or some young kid who's trying to be nice. Hi, sir. I'm Officer so-and-so from the police department. Can I please see your ID? I'm stopping you because... And he's all worried about being polite. Meanwhile, this career criminal who's been to jail 14 times, got a rap sheet of 20 pages, is sizing this dummy up and go, you know what, this dude's a rookie, he ain't got a freaking clue. So now he's going to plan on how he's going to get away. Is he going to slam the door into you? Is he going to run you over? Is he going to sucker punch you? Is he going to pull a gun? Because you got cops out there who don't have the experience dealing with real bad guys all the time, so they're into public image, PC bullshit. Now, does that mean that I can't go from parolee, show me your fucking hands, don't move, to a guy in a suit saying, hey guy, you know, you kind of ran that stop sign, you almost hit that lady, what's the hurry? Doesn't mean I have to take him at gunpoint, you can go up and down, but again, I wasn't contacting people in suits who were doing nothing. I was contacting people engaged in either criminal activity, prior criminal activity, wanted felons, wanted on parole, you know, wanted for violent crimes. So my gun was out almost on all our contacts. You know, me and my partner, we got out of the car, you know, shit, at least 5 times out of 10, our guns were either out, our hands were on it, or it was by our leg when we were approaching or doing something. Because we were approaching guys who were, and I'm going to do a crazy cop story about a guy who wouldn't let us transport him because he knew they had a hit out on us and they were going to kill us. He's like, man, just call a marked unit. But I'll tell that story. But anyway, so why do cops pull their guns? Anytime you're dealing with a felony crime, especially a violent felony or a violent misdemeanor, you want to have your gun out in case the guy's going to get violent with you. If he's gotten violent with someone else and he knows he's going to prison and he knows something that you don't know, like he's got a warrant or he killed or there's 2 dead bodies in his place that you haven't found yet, and he knows I got nothing to lose, you want that upper hand, you want that gun out, and you want the guy detained. So, you know, when I get these comments like, man, you couldn't be pulling your gun, I'll pull my gun, but every once every 6 months, you know what, you weren't contacting the guys you weren't working in areas like Oakland, Vallejo, and Richmond, and Los Angeles, and Sacramento, South Sac, Citrus. I mean, these places have a lot of crime, and you're dealing with a lot of bad guys, a lot of gang members, a lot of people that got out of prison. So, I mean, it's just exposure. So, when a cop pulls his gun, normally he's going to say the person was uncooperative, he wouldn't show me his hands, he was displaying behavior that was inconsistent with his actions in a stop. He appeared to be trying to delay me, to distract me, and to not follow my orders. All those things are clues. Now, a lot of cops now will carry tasers and they'll pull a taser out real quick. I didn't like carrying a taser and a gun. Too easy to get them mixed up. I had a partner, Joey. I'm going to get to him on another crazy cop story. I mean, he was Mr. Taser. I mean, he fucking dude did anything. If the guy says, what? Where are you cops are at? He was tased. Because, again, we're dealing with guys who know that if I can just stall you enough till my buddies come out, if I can distract you or delay you till I can get to my bat over here or get to my turf gun that's hidden over here, and then, you know, you just can't mess around when you're dealing with career-savvy criminals. They're just up on it. I mean, there's plenty of videotapes of crooks in prison training how cops come up and do their searches, and they have one inmate play like the cop, and then they actually practice taking the leg out and tackling the guy. And they're doing all this planning and training, so when they get out and a cop puts them in that position, they're going to have a plan on how to take this cop out. So if a cop doesn't have his gun out, if he tries to do something by himself, if he thinks he's not paying attention to signals and he thinks this guy's being cooperative and he does something by himself when he probably should have waited for a cover unit, well, he's going to be in a jam because you don't know. So, I mean, there's just so many, I just can't, I mean, you get a call for a backup of shots fired. I mean, anybody you stop or contact at a shots fired call, you're going to have your gun out because you don't know if the guy's still there with a gun. Now, obviously, the call is an hour all alone and you were dealing with something else and it took you an hour to get there, then maybe not. But, I mean, you know, we're chasing guys with guns in the car if they do a drive-by shooting. Obviously, my gun's going to be out. You know, you got a violent person that just got out of the joint, he's on parole, and his girlfriend, we got an ambulance going to the house, she's cut and stabbed and burnt, and she's in bad shape. So that means she could die. So if she dies, now you're dealing with a murder. Well, now you're chasing this guy. I can't be going up there worrying about being Mr. Citizen of the Year, Mr. Cop of the Year, PC policing. Hey, sir, excuse me, I'm Officer so-and-so and so-and-so. Would you mind showing me your hands, please? Because we had a report that you just stabbed your wife and burned her, and you're probably going to jail, and if she dies, you're going to be charged with murder. But would you mind cooperating with me? Look, you just don't do that. So, why cops pull their gun? There's varied reasons. But depending on who you're contacting and where you're working is going to dictate when you pull your gun. I mean, I would say 90% of the people I contacted were on probation, which means they went to jail for a crime. They were on parole, which means they went to prison. they were wanted for a felony or violent felony. So, I mean, again, I'm not contacting people that a cop that goes to a beat, you know, when I was working uniform and I had a beat, I didn't pull my gun as much. But I still pulled my gun if somebody came home and said, hey, my house looks like my house was locked and it wasn't. I don't know if there's somebody in there. Okay, we're going to go to the house, we're going to pull our gun, and we're going to clear and search the house. Even though there may not be anybody in there, we're going to have our gun out. So we would pull our gun on that call. You know, we go to the house, and the girl's outside, she goes, my boyfriend's in there, and there's guns in the house, and he said he's tired of me, and if I come back in, he's going to kill me. Guess what? I'm going to have my gun out. So, I mean, there's just call after call after call that if you're working in these high crime, high violent, high gang infested, high welfare, high liberal, Obama voting areas, you're going to be pulling your gun a lot. And, you know, all this Black Lives Matter, cops are shooting blacks. Cops are shooting blacks because they're out there doing crime. They're working in predominantly black areas where crime's out of control, and they're always being challenged, and the guys are always running, and they're usually always armed because they not only do they have to defend themselves against the cops, they got to defend themselves against everyone else in the neighborhood. Just like that one cop story I did down in LA. I stopped the guy up, asked me if he had any weapons. He goes, hell yeah, I got a weapon. If you ain't got a weapon around here, you a victim. And he was right. In the hood, in these bad areas, if you don't have a weapon, you're a victim. So most people you contact are going to be armed and they have weapons. So you need to have your gun out, or at least at a minimum, you're handling a gun and you're ready to pull it. You know, when we were working in if we were cruising an area looking for a suspect, sometimes we would pull our gun out and just set on our lap or keep it in the car on the ground because we were looking for a violent felon and we don't want the guy running out or getting chased. If there was a foot pursuit and we're cruising around, the passenger would usually have his gun out already. No different than holding a rifle, but he would have his gun in the car in case all of a sudden we're running, guys are in a foot pursuit, they lose the guy, and all of a sudden he rabbits out in front of us and we're like, shit, he's got a gun, and we don't want to be having to worry about drawing our gun, undo our seatbelt, so our seatbelt's off, we're ready to jump out of the car and our gun's in our lap. So if the guy puffs out, we can either give chase, get behind the car, or return fire if they shoot at us. So, I mean, I was kind of a little like, are you kidding me? There's cops out there that don't pull their gun but once in 6 months? To me, that's just, I just can't imagine that. I've never worked in an area like that. So, that's the reasons that cops will pull their guns. People that want to say, you know, no cop pulls their gun 5-10 times a shift. You haven't worked some high criminal, high task force units to where all you do, I mean, every search warrant, you pull your gun. Every probation search, when you're searching the house and clearing it, you pull your gun. If you're doing a parole search on the house, you pull your gun. I mean, we would go in the morning and we would pull up names of people in there, and like I said, we'd have 10, 15 people on parole, and we would go to each of those people's house. That was our job for the day, to go out there and go to each house and look for criminal activity, search, find evidence, drugs, etc., seize, book, arrest, and then on to the next person. If you got an arrest, you were out, and the rest of the guys would go finish the deal. And then we'd work our way down until we only had like 3 or 4 people, and then when we only had 3 or 4 people, they'd say, okay, we're going to stop the list because we don't have enough people to adequately clear the house and protect us. So, I mean, that was a daily duty. So, I mean, if you're doing 8 parole searches a day, you're pulling your gun 8 times. Because you're pulling your gun every time you clear a house. If you clear a house of attempted burglary, you're pulling your gun. If you're doing a high-risk stop, you're pulling your gun. If you're stopping somebody that matches the description of a violent felon or a felon, you're pulling your gun. So, you know, I guess I wanted to cover that because of the comments, and there were some cops out there that I guess either don't work in that type of area or couldn't understand it. Hopefully I cleared it up. We'll end that there on cops pulling their gun.